Welcome to this next episode of Fiberside Chats. I am so happy to have you here today. And my special guest with us for this next episode is going to be Alanna Williams of Star Knits. So before we begin, I just wanted to let you know if this is your first time joining us, basically, Alanna and I are going to have a little bit of a conversation. We're going to talk a little bit about her business and what got her into the fiber arts. And then if you have any questions for either of us, feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments. And then at the end, I will read them off to her or answer them myself if you have a question for me. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you again so much for coming. And of course, to my special guest, Alanna, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So so to get started here, for those of you that don't know about Alanna, like I'm really not familiar with some of the products you have. So I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today because I know that you are a project bag maker. And so I'm really fascinated about project bags, right? Because when we first start off with our crocheting or knitting or whatever kind of projects we get into, we might start off with like a grocery bag, right? And so we're just going to kind of use whatever we bought the fiber in, then it kind of sits there. If we went to a knitting store, maybe they have a nice knitting store bag for us. But eventually, we decide, okay, like this is something that we like. And now we want to have something that we're going to put our yarn in, our fiber in, our tools in. And then these project bags become very special to us, and it becomes almost part of, I think, the joy. Like there's stitch markers that are fun to use with your project, but it's also picking the right project bag. So I'm really curious if you could let us know, like, what kinds of project bags do you like to create? How did you get into project bag making? Anything that you want to tell us about your project bags? I'm really curious about them.
So my mom always sewed when I was younger. Like she made those dresses for us, and was always sewing. So I kind of knew how to sew when I was younger. And so then as I got older and I learned how to knit, I was teaching knitting at a local yarn store when I lived in Johnstown. And I wanted to give my students a Christmas gift because it was Christmas time. So I actually made some stitch markers for them the first year. And then the second year, I made a modified version of this, which is my yarnlet bag. So I make bags for everything. Since then, this was a long time ago.
You don't have to reveal how long ago if you don't want to.
For a while, but so I made them presents, and then they liked it. So the yarn store wanted to have some to sell, consigned them, and it just kind of started from there. And then it was basically I wanted bags to take my knitting or crochet or my spinning around with me. So since then, things have evolved, and I have set dimensions and stuff of things that I make. So but yeah, so that's how I started.
The very first project bag was for your students then? You didn't make any, because I know you said that you were teaching knitting. So did you make any for yourself before you gave them as gifts, or was this just an idea you had and then you're like, wait, I'm gonna make this?
No, I did make them for myself, and I had a drawstring one, but not mass market, but the when I started really making them, it was as gifts, and then people really liked them because we were young. I was not just married, but we'd been married for a couple of years, and we had little kids, and I was teaching, and that was a way to make some money. And so I didn't have a ton of money to give things, but I had fabric and I had a sewing machine, so that's how it happened.
So now, what things were you making? Because obviously if you have the sewing machine, you have the fabric, and I know that you said that your mom was making clothes. Did you make clothes too, or was there anything that you made before the project bags that you had the fabric for, quilts and things like that? Or
yeah,
was it just a tool collector?
No, I had it for my husband was in the military, so he our first anniversary, maybe he got me a sewing machine, or my birthday, I forget, from the PX, and I mainly used it to sew patches on his BDUs. And then like before an inspection, he would bring a bunch of people's home, and I would sew, I hated it. I hated it like with all of my heart. It was like horrible, but I like sewed and I like made, and I wanted to like, I always wanted to quilt. And so I had made my older sister a quilt. It's she still has it. It's the most horrible quilt ever. Like parts of it is like backwards. It's just horrible. And like that never really stuck with me. And then when I was pregnant with my youngest, who she's 17 now, my younger sister had just started learning how to knit, and she sent me some baby hats, and I was looking at that and I was like, I want to do this. So I looked, and this was like before Ravelry, before I totally just dated myself there, but it was before like any of that. So then I like went online and taught myself how to knit, and then I proceeded to try and teach everyone else how to knit. So it was cool.
So
And
you didn't know how to knit then before the baby hats?
yeah, no, I saw that. Well, I knew how to crochet. Like I was in like a not Girl Scouts, but like at our church, like a group, and they taught us how to crochet. And so one year, like I've always been crafty. So one year I made everyone like scrunchies. This was the first time scrunchies were in style.
When actually scrunchies were invented, don't worry, I was there with you. So
yeah. So like, so that year I made everyone scrunchies for Christmas because I had learned how to crochet. But I hadn't touched it for years and years until I was pregnant with Bella, who's my youngest, and I went home. My husband was in Iraq, and I went home to visit his family, and I was like completely bored. So I just went to Joann's and picked up a mile a minute crochet book and just like started crocheting again. I mean, I had already known how to do it, so it wasn't hard. But then my sister sent me those hats, and I was like, I want to learn how to knit. So then I just learned, and it was like before like YouTube was really big, and like, like Knitting Help wasn't even around. So I like bought a CD-ROM video, like how to knit, and that's how I learned how to knit. It's just crazy. So then after that, I was just like, I learned how to knit, and I was like, I need something to carry these around because these stupid bags, like Walmart bags, are just not right. So then it just went from there. So that's how it started, like crazy, weird how it all leads into each other.
Yeah, and also the fact that, when you start off with something when you're little, and then when you do when you're older, there's also, like this nostalgia, I think, or it kind of I don't know, like it's something that you did when you were little, and it was kind of like a comfort or like a fun thing. So then when you get to do it when you're older, I think that the idea of playing and just experimenting and testing out different, tools and stuff like that, that's a very, I don't know, I like to approach it almost from like this childlike, perspective or lens, right? Like, let's just have fun and play and like see what happens. And I think in the fiber art world, there's so many different things that you can play with and have fun. Like you can jump from hats to quilting to, all clothing. You could kind of bounce around all over the place. So,
Yeah.
So now that you make these bags, right? Is there anything like specific about your bags that, like design wise, that you think make them like better suited for knitting? Because like, for example, the other day I went and I have this project bag that I absolutely adore. It's my Beavis and Butthead here. See, I have a Beavis and Butthead one, right? And
that's
the thing
hilarious.
is, it has a zipper, right? And so I'm walking with my husband, and the zipper, it's like on the opposite end of the wrist part, right? So like all the yarn is kind of going past the teeth of the zipper, and I'm thinking like, is it going to shred my yarn, So I was like, wait, maybe Allena can tell me like, what is the perfect bag to get? Like if you're someone that, is at the skill level where you're not going to hurt yourself, where you like to walk and knit at the same time. Do you have any suggestions for people like me?
So I have some of those bags. So some of my bags have zippers, and some I have like drawstrings as well.
Okay,
so I would say maybe get a drawstring, but a lot of people don't like them because they have cats and they can like undo the drawstring, which I use a plastic toggle stopper to hold it closed for mine. But I would say like, if you're really worried about that, do that. But I also, for my bags, I have I don't know if I have a, I don't have one of my box bags, but I have it so that the handle and the zipper, well, this one was a mistake, so I kept it. Normally the zipper, I have it so that the zipper is, it starts here and so then it like opens, so it doesn't like pull on it too much, and it just pulls on the end of mine. This is just like my middle size one, but normally if I'm walking and knitting, I would probably use my like triangle bags, which I have it on my purse, which is way over there.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, if you can come back and just put a picture in the comment area so that we can see what those look like.
So I just would like say open it a little bit more so it's not getting caught on the zipper. That is like, or like, I mean, this is my personal preference. Like some people love when they have the grommets in the bag so they can thread it through. I hate that because then you're stuck to the same bag and you have to cut the yarn to get it out of that bag. But some people have grommets in their bags so they can like pull their thread through. I just have like my, I have like open ones too, like my buckets like this.
Oh, it's got mustaches. Okay, sorry. I love mustaches. I have one on my spinner, so.
Yeah, I make these for my spinning wheels, but a lot of people use them and knit like that. So it's like open, nice. But like then we're back to like if you have cats, like this isn't something that you would want to leave around. Yeah. But you know, stuff like that.
Here, you know, here's a great idea, right? You have those bags, and then when you're not using them, then you have a bigger bag like those Russian nesting dolls, you know. Then you have a bigger bag that you put into that's a cat-proof bag. So you have one for when you're like on the go moving, and then one to like.
I do have those. I have like bigger bags for like sweaters and Afghans and stuff. So
yeah, that would be funny if they had like lemon or like citrus print on it, because I know my cats hate the smell of lemon, so that's like a good deterrent, you know, to use.
Yeah. So that's just for me, like, and I try to put the zipper or the handle on the side where the zipper, like you pull it open from, and I have my windows open, so if you see something moving, it's a balloon that I got for Mother's Day.
No worries, you're good,
it's good, like so nice out, so I like opened all the windows. And
no problem. Yeah, I know in Rochester it's been you know, snowing like up to maybe like a couple of weeks ago, and then it went 80, and now it's just like raining again. So we had our spring and summer, and now we're back to rain. So I totally get it. It's nice out.
I live in Wisconsin, so it's been the same. Like this past weekend, it was like so hot. It was like 89. I was like, this is the worst ever. Like I am not a hot weather person. I like the cold weather because then you can wear your knitting. And
so now, are you someone that likes to change up the projects that you work on based on the season? Because I feel like there's certain projects that I really enjoy working on, maybe more during like the winter months, and then during the summer months I kind of like to switch it up, maybe to do socks or things that are a little bit smaller, so I'm not like draping blankets and sweaters and things like that over myself while I'm working. So are you a project switcher by season, or do you just go one project all the way through?
I am not an all the way through person, but I am not a season changer either. Like I just kind of knit or crochet or spin whatever I want and then go from there. Though it kind of is seasonally, because when summer comes around, I'm like, oh, I need to finish that tank that I've been working on for however long. And so I pull that out to try and finish that. But I am like a very much like, oh, new project type of person. So I like change, but I usually always have like socks or a shawl on the needles or hook to take around with me, like a smaller project, and then I have bigger projects at home. It just kind of depends on what I'm feeling like making. Oh, look, your cat's in the background.
Oh yeah, that little guy, he's Gurpus. Yeah, he's
so
my
cute.
He's my little buddy today. But yeah, so no, definitely with the projects, not necessarily like seasonal for me, but I feel like I have to have one project that's always on the go, like socks, and then I have to have something that's maybe more complicated that really involves like my concentration. And I feel like the socks are good because then you can like bring them for watching TV or spinning, you know. So there's different levels of focus that I need for different projects, but definitely the idea of knowing that there are bags out there that are meant for, you know, people to actually like work while you're holding your yarn and it's not
Yeah.
going to snag it is awesome. So
Yeah.
thank
So
you
even
for
like
sharing that.
well, even like these small ones, you can put, I make them so the handles you can put and then still walk around and it's just open. These ones I make are my basket lines. So they're made with like canvas. Sometimes it's outdoor canvas. So they're like outdoor proof, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So they won't get like super dirty and they're like mildew resistant and stuff because it's like outdoor fabric. But
oh, so kind of like the upholstery fabric that you might use like on a lawn chair or something like that.
yeah.
Oh,
And
cool.
some of it is just heavy duty duck canvas, like different kinds. Like I just try and find fabric everywhere I go. But like these are my baskets. So this is the smallest one, it's my yarnlet. And then I just have like bigger and bigger sizes. But I originally I started the line for my spinning to hold my fiber. But like as you can see, I have socks in this one right now. So it's just a good like yarn bowl that doesn't break, because I've had a couple that I've broken and it just is so sad. So that is like one thing that I do. Like I have stuff for like everything, because I knit, crochet, spin, and weave. So I make bags that I think are useful. And a lot of my bags, like my drawstrings and my pockets, have pockets in them. My wedge is, I call them pockets because they're basically just like pockets. But I have pockets
as opposed to
inside
pockets, right?
Right. Yeah. Because like how many times are you going somewhere and you need pockets?
Definitely,
And so,
always, yeah.
yeah. And so like I do that with my bags, because I'm like, I wish I had something to hold this in there. And that's just why I started making the bags that I make, because I find them useful to myself. So
now what, like, so for the patterns that you use, are these like your own design, or are these like designs out there that people can use? Or like have you like like when you first started, did you like take a pattern and then you just started modifying them, or how did the designs come about?
I think when I first started, I looked for some patterns, but they didn't make sense. You know, like you can find a million tutorials on Pinterest and whatnot on making a box bag or making a drawstring bag. And I looked at them and then I was just kind of like, that, like putting it together doesn't make sense, because I try to have like no visible seams, like, and I fold like there'll be like a seam at the end where I turn it all right side out. And so then, but I fold it over so you don't have like unraveling in the project bag. So I have all of that. Like I've seen like some where they like just use pinking shears, and I'm not down with that. So I do that. And I also like match my fabrics. Here, I'll kind of show you. So this one's like gnomes, right? And
I love gnomes too. You're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to get one of each of these.
So I match it, and then on the inside is like polka dot, but they're ladybugs. And then the pockets are just like polka dots too. So like I try to match. Oh, I do have a box bag in here.
It's like Mary Poppins, there's everything in there.
So yeah, but like and then I started making my box bags, and they're like a little bit wider and deeper, so you can fit like 2 cakes of yarn in there, plus your project and a knit kit. And it's all fits in there really well. Like this one is like really well used, obviously. But like, so like this one's like Doctor Who, and then inside I have like stars.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So like I always try to match stuff.
Yeah, and I know you said that you have a fabric collection, and you have some that's like the outdoor heavy duty fabric, and then you have like the cottons and all of that. So like what kinds of fabrics do you enjoy working with, or is there anyone that you find like really difficult? Like I'm always fascinated when people make bags out of handwoven fabric and then they mix it up, like over here, hang on. So like this one, this was the first time that I ever attempted to like sew like fabric that I wove to make a little pouch. And and so I really love it. It's got the zipper and everything, but I would love to learn how to mix it with leather. And I felt like that was just a level of skill that I was not quite at or felt confident to go at with my machine. So I'm curious, like, what are your favorite fabrics to work with? And is there any that is, either like super tricky for you or that you just you don't like either?
So the tricky stuff is like I showed you the bucket before that I have, like, you can see a satin inside. That's the trickiest one to work with because you can't really iron it and
Oh,
press
okay.
it. And it's like slippery. So that's the hardest one to work with. But I pretty much like all fabric except for I'm not a huge fan of flannel because one, it's fuzzy. So for project bags, it doesn't really work. And two, like going into like Joann's, they have so much flannel and they have so many cool prints. And I always like go over and I'm all excited because I see something I want to buy and it's flannel. So that's the only and I mean, I like it for making PJ pants, at Christmas time and stuff like that. But other than that, I really don't not like any fabric. I like all kinds of fabric and I like using them. And it's funny that you're talking about the hand woven. Like I just started, not for bags, but like just started like wanting to like weave and then sew garments out of my hand woven. I just joined a Facebook group for it. I'm like totally obsessed. And I watched a million YouTube videos and I'm like super obsessed with weaving and then sewing what I've woven into stuff.
Yeah, no, I interviewed a few Fiberside Chats back, Julie Benak, and so she was
I watched it
about,
and
yeah, the course, yeah, and I was like, oh man, I wish I could go to it in person because it just sounded
yeah.
so cool to be able to pair, your weaving with like actually knowing what to do with it, because I think especially like how you're spinning now, right? Like if you go from the very beginning of the process of creating a project, whatever it is, if you're starting with like fleece and then you're taking it into yarn and then you're taking it into fabric, you've like invested so much time that it might be really scary or daunting to then go to the scissors and be like, okay, I can only cut this once, and if I sew it, am I going to mess it up, and is it going to shrink or get all wonky and stuff? So I have tons of fabric that I have these great ideas of what I want to do with, but they're just kind of sitting around until I have the confidence maybe to try them.
Just do it. So there's this on Etsy, there's this lady, her name's Sarah Howard, and she has she wrote a book called Get Weaving, I think, and it's basically she takes her rigid heddle and weaves fabric and then puts her pattern on it and cuts it out.
Yeah, it's probably like in there somewhere. I probably have. Yeah, I had the rigid
has
heddle.
like
yeah.
patterns that she specifically made for smaller width hand woven that you can buy on Etsy and then print it out, like those PDF patterns. So yeah, I'm super obsessed with it. I think it was I think it was your Fiberside chat with her that got me like down that rabbit hole, like big time. Cause I have so much hand spun, like you can't see, but I have like one of those IKEA 4x4s and it has like fiber to spin and my hand spun. It's full.
Well,
the bottom has books, but
yeah, and the thing about hand spun and weaving that's so nice is that if you're a spinner that really just, there's a lot of spinners that just spin for the fun of it and they don't know what they're going to do with it, and they say that the yarn will speak to them, and they'll figure it out eventually, and they just begin to grow their hand spun stash. It's so much fun, I think, for me personally anyway, to start off with like a very plain warp, just like black cotton warp or something like that, and then just throw your hand spun in, and the textures and the colors and like all of that just really makes the hand spun come to life and makes such an interesting fabric. And then when you can actually use it, so I tried doing a skirt that I made out of like Saori fabric, but I didn't know that, okay, like if I would have stopped and really thought about it, maybe, but like when I was weaving, I was having so much fun. I wasn't thinking about it at that stage, but I have a lot of like open, holes and things like that in the fabric. And I'm like, well, if this is a skirt, not even for the translucency of it, but more so that if it like can snag on something like that. So I think the idea of knowing how you can sew the fabric you make and then also letting that maybe guide the fabric making process, you know, because if you have an idea of what you want, then you can make the fabric that it's going to be good for. But when you have the fabric and then you're like, okay, I want to do something with this, what can I do? Then it can also be a little bit daunting too. So like lining it, and you know, like you said, with not the silk, but forgive me, what was the fabric that you said this that you lined it? You said it was difficult fabric to work with.
Oh, it's like the satin.
Yeah, the satin. Yeah, sorry, the word escaped me. But yeah, so like if you're gonna pair something like satin and hand woven fabric, are those, you know, a good combination, or is there like something better to like line the fabric with? So as far as like the durability of your bags, like do you do anything to, you know, weatherproof them or anything? Like I know you said you get the duck canvas, but do they pretty much come that way, or do you do anything special to make them?
So the basket line is not machine washable, because it's like not machine washable fabric that you get, like you shouldn't wash it. But most of my fabric I get is cotton, so I wash it, I pre-wash it before I cut it and then sew it, so that most of my bags are machine washable, except for the ones like this with the plastic on the front. They're not machine washable, but pretty much everything else is throw it in the washing machine and wash it, because I just don't have time to, you know, when I first started, I had little kids, so I didn't have time to hand wash everything. So yeah, but I like to think of my bags as like project support, so that they can like let you make your project portable and protect your needles and your project from like everything. So
I'm curious, like before, I know, because you said you've been doing these bags for a while. So before COVID, were you actually, you know, selling your bags in person, or like were you going to in-person events, or have you only been, you know, selling your bags online? Just because for me personally, I think once you get to a level of stash acquisition where you realize you can't get possibly any more fiber, because you know it's just you're not going to be able to spin it all, you're good with the yarn, then I think it becomes almost like a fun memento to be able to pick up a bag or stitch markers, and then you like have these memories of getting the bags from those places. So were you ever involved in any of the in-person events?
Yeah, so I it's been about 8 years maybe I've been doing different shows. When we lived in Pennsylvania, there was like a show a month, basically, like around there. It's like really rich with fiber festivals. And since moving to Wisconsin, I've had to like change, but then we moved and then the pandemic happened like a few months later. So like I had to adjust. And then that's how I found WAFA, and it was so wonderful because none of my in-person shows were happening. And so I was able to sell online, and it just kind of like opened it up to like doing like the sale, like a live sale, because I do mine as a live sale, and do that. And now I'm in the process of moving from Etsy, because I did sell on Etsy for multiple years, but some of their changes have me like, I'm in the process of turning on my store on my website, and then I'll just have Etsy there to be like, hey, go over here, because they're just like, their prices are just getting crazy high, and it's like not really helpful to a small independent business like myself, because I mean, they help like small businesses in the sense of like small business, but I'm like an independent business because it's just me. So yeah, so through the COVID, it just helped me like do more online, because I'm not like the most social media type person. Like some people, like what's her name from Done Fiber?
Oh yeah, Caitlin. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Caitlin. She's like on there, and she does like a video a day. Like I totally follow her on Snapchat, which I finally, not Snapchat, TikTok. I finally kind of TikTok. But I have like maybe 4 videos on there, because I'm like, do people want to really see me cutting fabric every day?
Well, you know, I think it's really fascinating in just the whole transition from what we do in person and
Yeah.
how that translates to what's happening online, because, you know, like you said, there's you know, maybe more and more, especially with the pandemic, this shift from, you know, regular life living and then virtual life living. And, you know, just even, you know, things like avatars and NFTs and just, you know, what's real and what's not, and the virtual part of it. But yeah, I think it can be really difficult for creators because there's, you know, this equation, well, if I have X amount of likes or if I have X amount of followers, then that means I'm successful. But, you know, the numbers don't necessarily, you know, indicate if someone is making a good product or not, you know, like just because someone is good at the video part, but then like, what if you're someone that's making a really good product? How do you transition if you're not someone that's like, hey, you know, like, check this out, I'm, you know, comfortable in front of a camera. And I think that can be really difficult. And I think one of the things too that I really liked about Instagram was that you could just put up pictures and that was enough. Like you didn't have to do video stuff. Maybe like
and that's
YouTube
mainly
where, where the YouTube was like where the video people went, you know, maybe TikTok was like the younger kids went, and like I was comfortable with, you know, Facebook and Instagram. But now even just like going through a feed and seeing, okay, so at least like 50% is advertisements, fine, whatever. But then it's like 25% of the rest of it is, you know, what your friends are like associated with, and it's not even people you follow. And it's like, well, of course your numbers are going to go down if no one can see you. So I think it's such a booming industry trying to help people figure out how to even do stuff online. But it's like, I don't want to be, you know, on Instagram and Facebook and doing all of this stuff. I want to be creating. And so how can you marry the idea of being a creator and making, and then, you know, like I know you were saying too with Etsy and the challenges that is to an independent artist, especially because like if you don't have templates that you're downloading or downloadable goods, like if you have to physically make something, it's not like you're getting your hours back in the day, you know, like it still takes you the same amount of time. The materials are probably going up, right, with the cost of everything else going up. So it's very difficult to kind of figure out that balance, I think. So it's one of the things that's really nice though, that I agree with you, is that having the Wool and Fiber Arts Group is a wonderful place where we know that we can go, and it's like there's going to be the people that we want to see, you know, that's the place where you can go to, and you know that there's going to be knowledgeable people about how to, you know, fix things. If you break your sewing machine, I can be like, oh no, what did I do? You know, I went down the Staten Road, please, you know, Allena, help me. And I think that that's a wonderful part. But I know, so you make the bags, right? But like, what do you do with the yarn that you spin?
I mainly do that for myself.
Okay.
I spin and then knit or crochet or weave. But I have also bought fleeces because I love like I love sheep and I love everything about them. Like if I had a like $2 million, I would totally buy a farm and have sheep and just like have like a fiber studio. I would love it. But I have a lot of fleeces and I like the whole process of like cleaning them all the way to spinning them. And I've done a couple of like sweater spins. But I seriously have a lot of fleeces. And when people find out that you spin and you use it, and they have like, I have like so many alpaca fleeces, like maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 or more. Because
you don't have to reveal your numbers. That's okay. You're amongst friends. You could just say you have the fleeces and we got you. I
have a lot. But because I did that, I have that. I started, I got a fancy kitty drum carder like a couple of years ago. Like I've been wanting one for years. So it was like, okay, probably 5 years ago, I got one. And so I started like processing, because I love the whole process of wool. I started processing them. And so now I also make like rustic bats. I call them rustic because it's me processing them. So they're not always grass free, if that, you know, like they're clean, but there's always at least 1 or 2 like stuff in it. So I call them rustic, but I've started like blending and making stuff. And then just recently, when last October, Waffle was Socktober. And so I think the wool of the month was Tunis, and I had a fleece. and I sectioned off 2 pounds and I dyed it for myself and processed it for myself. But then I had like 3, because the Tunis fleece is huge. Like you figure like some fleeces are smaller. It was like an 8-pound fleece. It was huge.
Wow.
So after cleaning it, I like just had it in, I have it in a Rubbermaid tote. So then I like pulled it out because this October was Tunis and I have this fleece. So I like dyed it and then I like processed it, and I had like nylon and like mint top, and I made like a sock blend bat system. I have one that I like haven't finished processing. I have,
Ooh, I love that color. Can you tell
I
it matches my
know,
wall?
I love green, and I think I'm gonna like spin it for myself, but this one is Tunis and Firestar, because that's like nylon, so it's gonna be good for that. And I think I have some mohair that I think I want to try blending with a fiber. But I just love the whole process of blending. So like that's one of those things, like I have so much of it. I'm trying to like use some to get rid of it. I think I'm gonna spin this one for myself because I love the color so much.
I
But
think, and yeah, and as a maker, you know, that's the thing that I have such a hard time with, and I'm curious how do you do this, or like how do you you know, work through those feelings, right? Because like everything that you make, it's obviously, you know, your imagination, your creativity, like all of that stuff is kind of coming from your mind through your body. It's you're using your time, and then you make this thing and you think it's like so wonderful, but then it has to go out the door to someone else, you know. Whereas maybe if you're a shepherd and you're shearing the fleece off the sheep, yes, you fed the sheep and, you know, you took care of it, but it's not like you're cutting your own hair to donate, you know. It's like
yeah,
there's more I think of yourself that you're putting into your artwork. So do you find that it's difficult to make bags and then kind of have them go out the door, or to make bats and then say, okay, like someone else can enjoy this, I don't need to? Or do you just find yourself being like, oh, this is so good, I can't give it away?
kind of to a point, but then like when you're at a fiber festival or you're doing an online one, like those people that are watching or coming to your booth, they're like your kind of people, so they get it, they're exactly like you. So then when you see someone who's like, because I'm pretty nerdy, so usually I'll have like Doctor Who or like Marvel or Harry Potter or Star Trek, if I can find the fabric. Like I don't print the fabric, I just buy licensed fabric. So like I just did Maryland sheep and wool last weekend, and I had Animal Crossings, and like when people would just like you know, like freak out about whatever, I kind of freak out about it too, because I'm like, yeah, I saw that fabric and I had to get it. Like, because it's kind of the same like when you walk into like a knitting store or any kind of store and you're like, oh, look at this fiber, I love it. You know, it's the same for me when I go into a fabric store, because I'm like, oh, I love this. This would be a great, you know, whatever. So I just buy it. And I do like small run fabric. So I'll just buy a quantity of the fabric and then make as many bags out of it as I can. And then sometimes I can find it again. Most times you can't, because they change pretty regularly, seasonally actually. So so like when people come to, you know, like I'll like kind of geek out with them and then, you know, let them
So
go.
yeah, so probably like having that connection then with someone over what you're making,
Yeah.
you know that it's going to be well loved, as opposed to just giving it to someone they're like, oh, thanks, like what am I supposed to
Right.
do with it? It's someone that's getting, you know, hearts in their eyes over the fabric and getting super excited about it, and then you feel like, okay, this is going to be someone that appreciates what went into it, and you
Yeah.
know, then it feels a little bit easier to let those things go.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of get to that way, but I think if I was making bags out of like my hand woven, it might be a little harder. Which I follow a lady on Instagram that does that. She lives in the UK somewhere. And she like weaves or uses a knitting machine and then sews bags out of it. It's so cool. But yeah, I don't do that.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's
and I
cool.
think that, yeah, when there are people that, you know, make their art, it's not something that is like, just like even with you making your bags, right, and making them custom and like taking the time to go shop for the fabric, it's not that, you know, you're a factory and things are just like coming in and you're sitting there, you know, but there's like thought and care that goes into making things like these bags that, again, I think just makes the process of using them to hold your fiber and yarn in that much more special, because you know that this is like a one of a kind thing, you know. Yeah, maybe you, like, someone could make it again or make a copy of it but for the most part, you know, this is a handmade thing that the person like thought about and created and put together. And I think that's what makes them so much more special than just going to the store and buying one that was made in a factory.
Yeah. So that's like one thing that I really enjoy, like the whole process. And I always tell people, I'm like, I know that I still like doing this because I go into a fabric store and I have to like rein it in. You know, like, or like I go to like a fiber festival. Like I said, I was at Maryland Cheap and Wool last weekend. Luckily I was working and I didn't go to the fleece barn and buy any fleeces because I have a ton at home, you know, like that. But it made me like want to like pull out my fleeces and like start processing more, because it's just, I love it. I love it so much. And like when I watch your Fiberside chats, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, do this while you guys are talking with whatever. Yeah.
No, I know that it's definitely hard when you're around other artists that are making beautiful stuff that you then want to enjoy as well, because there's so many talented people, especially like in this group, that have wonderful fiber and just wonderful creations that, you know, you want to celebrate them and support them. And, you know, it's just a very reciprocating type of environment. So I totally agree with you on that. In fact, you know, I'm going to be doing a live demo tomorrow night where I'm going to be spinning up some of the vendors' alpaca fiber, and I'm so excited because I haven't spun alpaca in forever. But for the most part, you know, I've really decided that when I go to buy something, it's so sad to me when it sits in the drawers and it doesn't get used, and it sits in like bins and it doesn't get used. And so I've been, for the past like better part of 2 years, literally just trying to work down my work in progress projects, not even my stash, just my work in progress projects. And then when those are like relatively done, I think I have maybe, it's really sad, I think I had like 4 left. And then I found a whole bunch of in progress work that I had in my classroom, because I cleared out my classroom and I had all of these like samples and exemplars. And I'm like, wait, does this go in my work in progress? Because I wanted to finish these too. But once I get to the end of that, I really wanted to be able to just use what I have with intention, and then buy things maybe to add in. Like if I need Angelina, or if I need, not, you know, mohair, then I don't have that, sure, like I'll buy it. But I really wanted to use what I have. And then when I do buy something, I want to use it when I get it, because it's so exciting to buy it, but then it's sad to me when I can't get a chance to use it. So I'm being very mindful, and that's why I'm so excited that I can spin some alpaca tomorrow. But before we get like too far ahead, I just wanted to go and see if there are any comments or questions. So I will read those off. Hang on, I'm just switching over. Okay.
This part always makes me nervous because it's like the middle of the day and I'm like, if no one's watching, there'll be no questions.
That's okay. That's okay. So for anyone that is watching the replay, feel free to tag Allena and show some love to her. And if you have any questions while you're watching the replay, she'll come back and answer. So I'm seeing, let's see, hang on. I'm going to scroll back up. Okay, so someone said that they snuck in just because of you. So there you go. You actually drew people to today's event. So awesome. I'm not surprised by it. Let's see here.
Hi, friends.
Oh yeah, so they said that you have clear pockets on the outside too, great for storing a pattern or a note so you know what's in it. Yeah, that's a great idea. Like, do you have you know, like on the suitcase tags, or like you know, something like that, where you could like say, oh, okay, this is what's inside the bag, so I know I don't have to.
Really good idea. I do not have those made, but I when I first started making the ones with the clear pocket, I made it specifically for like when you take knitting, so you can throw your cell phone in your bag and your keys, and then you're knitting, and then when you get up to leave, you have it all and you can see it all there. But then I was selling them and people were like, oh yeah, I like to put my patterns in there. I'm like, I didn't even think about that. Like, so like I learned stuff from customers all the time. It's like so fun. But yeah, I don't have any like with tags though. That's a good idea.
Yeah, there you go. See that? Okay, so if you make one, let me see that line, because that would be really cool, because I'm somebody that's very forgetful, and I would be like, what the heck did I put in here? So knowing what it was would be awesome.
Yeah, that's
okay.
awesome.
Let's see here. So someone said, wow, I'm getting a large drum carder for the fleece. So I guess you have a lot of other fleece fans out there that are excited for processing their own.
We'll talk about fiber processing. Like I love talking about it, and I love doing it, and I love all of it, and I just love it.
So there you go. So maybe when you're trying to figure out what to do for your lives or your social media, there you go. Just like document your fiber processing, what you love about it. And I'm sure that you'll get people excited about it too.
Yeah.
Anytime you share what you're excited about, I think that gets people excited.
Yeah. I don't have, I have like all my fleeces are clean now, so I don't have the like whole like cleaning part to do, but I can always do the dyeing and then the fiber processing, which I have done a couple of lives in Wafa.
So yeah, so make sure you go back and you tag them with your name so that people can do a search and they can see all of the demos, or you can just search for Allena's name and you should be able to see all of the posts, right?
Yeah, I don't remember if I did it as my business or as myself.
Okay, so yeah, you can search Star Knits too then. And
yeah, so it would be either of them, like, because I'm joined the group as both, but sometimes Facebook is weird, so sometimes like I'll go to reply and it'll be myself instead of my business, or it'll the opposite. And so yeah,
the best is when you put up a post, either like you said, of your profile or your business, and then you go to reply to someone, and then it'll say, hey, you just replied to your post, but it's a very weird notification. It's like, oh no, I'm having an identity crisis.
That is me. Thank you very much.
Well, especially because mine is both my names, so it's like the same name, so it's like really funny that way to me anyway.
It makes me laugh every time.
Okay, so someone said, can you hold up a bag? So I know you've been holding up your bags this whole time, but if you want, is there a bag that you have maybe that you haven't showed us that's like your favorite, that's like an arm's reach, or like your go-to one? Okay, there you go. Basket.
My rope bowls, I like them for spinning, obviously. This is like one of my favorite.
Wait, so you didn't weave that then? That's like,
no, I sewed it. It's with rope, and then I try to use all the fabric I have. Okay. So rope and fabric. This was like my prototype, the very first one I made, so it's kind of like not as good as the ones that I make and sell.
No, that's cool. It looks like those newspaper like wrapped baskets, so that's why that's really awesome.
And then I think my other go-to is my box bags, which I already talked about. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it fits, two cakes of yarn inside. If you can see, there you go. And then my projects in there. And I don't know, can you hear the
jingle?
The jingle. So I have like a Altoids tin with all the stuff in it. So.
Oh yeah, so so someone said your bowls are amazing. I use them for non-fiber things, and also it was Angela, and she said that she is at school, but she snuck out just to see you. So
that's awesome.
And then she loves the rope bowls too. Yeah, so for my stitch markers, because I was doing those tins too, right? But a while ago, many moons ago. So I guess like you were saying before Ravelry, in the before times, I went to England, and there was this market that I went to, and they had these cool coin purses. So there's like this little leather
that is
coin
cool.
purse. And so what I love about it, okay, like first of all, he's got like a little mouth with the tongue. I don't know if you can see as I'm dropping.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Out. But then I have like all my stitch markers in there, and it's great because then like it's just the clamp kind, so I don't have to like open anything and lose the top. I don't know. I literally for the past week, I probably have gone through from my socks like at least 3 or 4 needles that have like fallen out of my bags because of like puncturing the fabric. So I definitely need to get one that's a little bit sturdier and not.
Well, there's that too. I also make double pointed needle protectors, which you can use with your circulars.
Oh, okay.
And then they just snap around there, so then they won't poke through your bag.
Yeah, I need like an iron, line, something like with the
interfacing, but I mean, like I think they could still poke through it, but not as much. But I have seriously, like, because I use everything that I make, like, and I also like So I have like an answer for everything. So if you have a question, just ask and I will let you know what I do.
Okay.
Which isn't always like 100% what everyone likes, but like, you know, like some people don't like zippers because their stuff gets caught on it. But I'll show you like one way to zip with your project in there. Just put your finger on the zipper inside and then just like zip it up. So then your knitting won't get caught or crocheting.
Wonderful tip.
So there's a tip for you.
There you go. There you go. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I really appreciate you lending us your time. It was so fascinating to hear about like all of your bags and the different features that they have. So thank you so much for sharing them with us. And if you have any final closing words, is there anything else you would like to let people know? I know you said you're transitioning from Etsy to your website. So if there's any other information that we should know about?
I don't think so. Thank you for tuning in. It was a lot of fun coming and talking. I wasn't sure what we would talk about, but we didn't have a problem, you know.
Well, just for those people that are watching, I do like to keep it a little bit, you know, organic. You know, I don't want to have a list of questions ahead of time. Just I want to know what the person does and kind of get to know them more as a person. Because I think, you know, when there are the live sales, people get like really nervous, you know, the vendors get really nervous because you feel like, okay, like this is work, you know, and I really have to, you know, be on camera and be on point and I have to remember everything and, you know, do everything in like the right order and that sort of thing. But I think getting to know the people that create the things that we love to buy and use is just a great way to, again, make it feel more like a community, to know like, oh, okay, hey, this is like a person that actually, you know, likes the same stuff that I like, and they're, you know, using materials in a really novel way, and I want to support them. So I think it's a great way where we can kind of get to know each other a little bit better outside of the sale part, but at least getting to understand, you know, how you like to work and think as an artisan. So again, thank you so much. And for those of you that would like to know, for the next Fiberside chat, I'm going to be having it. Let's see, wait, hang on. I just want to double check the date here. Hang on. Okay, now my calendar just totally disappeared. All right, I will post it in the comments the date. I believe it's going to be next Monday at 1 p.m., but I'll double check. And it's going to be with Keba of the studio at Innisfree. And we're going to be talking about Shetland sheep and natural colored fiber, which is really interesting to me because I, you know, am a dyer and I love to dye over white fiber, but like over dyeing grays and brown fiber is just like also fun. But we're going to talk about the natural colors. So I'm kind of curious to see what colors are available.
That's cool. Shetland are really cool sheep.
Yeah. So thank you again, everybody, for joining. Again, if you have any, you know, questions or comments, feel free to go ahead and tag Allena or myself, and we'll be sure to answer them. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So take care, everybody, and thank you so much, Allena. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.